Today we're answering the question, is 7 Days to Die worth getting into in 2026? We're going to cover the good, the bad, and the other stuff you should know before buying or indeed just coming back to the game. Let's jump in. 7 Days to Die currently retails for 45 USD, about 44 euros or 38 pounds. While that isn't the most expensive game on the market by any means, it is a significant price hike from the game's historical 25 USD. Regardless, as you can see on SteamDB, the game does still pretty consistently go on sale. However, you will note that the price while on sale is usually about what the game used to retail at. So you're looking at maybe a $20 game that used to go on sale for $6, which is a significant price difference. So my suggestion there would be to just check the price regularly before buying. So, what is 7 Days to Die? It's a survival, open-world RPG where you fight zombies, build bases, acquire resources, and survive the elements. Combat is what you're going to be doing the most, I would say, and most of that is against zombies. The zombies come in a few varieties, though it's not uncommon for players to know them all by a first-name basis, so there's a definite lack of model variety compared to a lot of other zombie games. Mechanically speaking, the zombies are very basic. They punch you, there's no grabbing, biting, or tackling like you might see in some other zombie games. It's just punches plus special attacks. Specifically, spitting in several directions, spitting bugs, setting you on fire, throwing rocks, and of course, a zombie classic, exploding violently. However, the zombies do have very customizable durability, damage, speed, and senses. You can really choose your own apocalypse here. The hitboxes are tolerable but not perfect, and their hit registration is again mostly fine, but sometimes you will get hit by a zombie who barely looks like they did an animation. The other half of combat is of course the player. As the player, you have a massive variety of weapons. You've got spears, clubs, sledgehammers, fists, knives, batons, bows, rifles, machine guns, pistols, shotguns, robotic turrets, traps, and explosives. And generally, you can group weapons by their RPG governing attribute, allowing for about 12 distinct weapon combo playstyles like spears and snipers or clubs and shotguns. If you add in the 16 armor sets with their various unique effects and dozens of very useful consumables, particularly ones that give useful game-changing effects like Mega Crush, there's a lot of replay value in different playstyles you can build in 7 Days to Die. In fact, the skill attribute system gives you 5 distinct attributes plus a generic perk tab, and each of these tabs, except for the generic tab, has about 10 perks. So there's a lot of customization and builds you can make out of this. Stealth is serviceable and often very necessary on harder difficulties, but be warned, when you get to higher tier locations, the game is very, very stubborn, and it effectively cheats and makes the zombies aware of you if you cross certain invisible lines in the POI, often regardless of what equipment and skill level you have, because I guess they just thought stealth was too easy. Melee combat is fine. It has heavy and light attacks and it has stamina management, but don't expect anything like dodge rolls or parries. Base building is one of this game's biggest strengths. You get access to something like 2,000 distinct block shapes. There is virtually nothing you can't build shape-wise. Where 7 Days to Die does shine in the building department, even more so than its shapes though, is its reason to build. In 7 Days to Die, base building is almost mandatory. Every 7 days, a Blood Moon horde will attack your current location at night until morning. Generally, the game stage mechanic helps keep things balanced. If you suck, you're leveling really slowly, you're staying in the forest biome, and you're dying every other day, your game stage is going to stay relatively low. If you're a real absolute god tier gamer and you're level 50 before the day 7 horde and you run into the wasteland to steal all the loot bags during the day 7 horde, expect a very difficult experience. And this game stage mechanic scales for a very, very long time. It scales into the thousands. You will have a slightly different horde almost every single time you have a horde night. Resource acquisition is pretty good in 7 Days to Die, but it could be better. You have 5 main pillars. Trading, which I would say is acceptable. It works, it's trading, but there are certainly games that do trading a little bit better. This is a system where you collect money by doing jobs and selling stuff to the trader. It makes sense. And the items you can buy from the trader are gated by trader stage, so generally based on your level, you will find things in trader inventories. There's a few ways to affect that, but I won't get to that here. And it stops you from getting anything really good at the start of the game, and it kind of filters out the shit stuff at the end of the game, which is pretty good. It's fine. Farming I would describe as kind of annoying in 7 Days to Die. You use farm plots rather than just tilling the soil, which is a system 7 Days to Die used to have, but it works, and it's better than not having a farming system at all. Mining exists in 7 Days to Die. I would say it's kind of unengaging. Like, for a game that prides itself on its voxel-based world, they've done so little with those voxels as far as the ground is concerned. They do a lot of voxel stuff for the buildings, physics, and things like that, but mining is extremely boring. There's no skill to it. You basically just go to a location that you can see on your map where there's a certain color. That certain color will lead you to an ore. You mine it, and then if you want to be a little bit more involved with it, you can reinforce your mine so they don't cave in, but it rarely fucking matters. And if you take a game most known for its mining, like Minecraft, you would certainly have a more engaging mining experience in Minecraft because there's a lot more things to mine, there's a lot more materials to mine, there's more skill and thought that goes into mining in Minecraft because you need to know where things spawn and you need to know what to avoid, and there's actually creatures that might spawn down in caves that you can find. You're never going to mine into a cave in 7 Days to Die. It's almost entirely solid underground. There's never any threats. There's nothing to break up the tedium of digging resources, and it's very disappointing, but it is worth noting that the one advantage 7 Days to Die does have with regards to mining is, much like Minecraft, you still can fully deform the terrain and build yourself a base underground if you want to. Or if you want to dig a basement for your base, you've got full control to do that, where in a lot of static mesh games, you just wouldn't be able to. Salvaging is another pillar of resource gathering, and it's a little bit more engaging than mining. You're still basically just clicking on things, but there's more thought that goes into it. You need to know what you need, and there's like 30 resources you can salvage, and you need to know where those spawn, what buildings might have those in them. There is one caveat to that though, that I think cars really just trivialize the salvaging mechanic, because you get everything from cars. There's almost nothing you don't get from cars that you would be able to salvage somewhere else. I think the only notable exceptions are forged iron. Other than that, you truly get almost everything else from cars, so it does become kind of just like walking between car simulator. The last pillar of resource acquisition is looting, which is the primary source of most of the things you're going to be getting, especially equipment like guns and things like that. I'm happy to put survival in the good section of 7 Days to Die, thanks to recent updates. If this video was made like literally 4 months ago, I'd be putting this in the bad section, but it's had a lot of good recent updates. So with water, you need to stay hydrated like in most survival games. You can now collect water with jars again. That was a feature that was missing for 3 years, and it almost caused an actual revolution. Water survival is pretty much exactly what it needs to be right now. It works. You collect water, you purify it, you drink it. Easy. That's all water needs to be. Food exists, and there's definitely some more depth there with negative effects like dysentery, and there's stamina boosts, and sometimes you get negative effects like dehydration from eating food, so you need to balance it with water. Very simple mechanic. You get food by looting, buying, hunting, and farming. It works very well for a survival game. No real comments on that. There's temperature, which makes you need specific clothes and items to survive in hot or cold biomes. Works perfectly fine, although it is a simplified version of the feature we used to have, say, about 3 or 4 years ago. Injuries, I'm putting in the survival section. It's actually a critical hit system. It's actually much more RPG than survival, but it feels survival-y. But you might get like a broken leg and you need to put a cast on it, or you need to use antibiotics on infections, or use painkillers to cure concussions. It's a pretty fun system, even if it is kind of just like rock, paper, scissors, but even simpler. It gives you a reason to look for medicine and collect it, and specifically stockpile it for certain problems. It works. It has a lot more depth as far as survival is concerned than a lot of other games which stop at eat food, drink water, or occasionally sleep. The final major strength, I would say, of 7 Days to Die is customizability. It has tons of menu toggles. It's got XP gain, daylight, length, difficulty, stuff like that. Internally, the game uses XML to store data, and if you can read basic English, you can basically mod this game yourself, and if not, there are thousands of mods available to fix almost any issue. I'm not going to give the devs too much credit for making the game be fixable by modders, but it could be worse in that regard. You know, they chose to store a lot of the game's variables in XML, which makes them very accessible to modders. Now for the bad. There are like 5,000 tiny gripes I could list, like the cars, but let's focus on the flaws that I think will really hinder your long-term enjoyment of this game. The learn by reading system is the main method of progression currently in the game. Basically, if you want to learn how to craft something better, you need to find 50 magazines to do it, and there's no other way to improve the crafting skill currently. Allegedly, apparently, this is being overhauled in the future, but right now, we are still under the tyranny of magazines. To max out crafting, you need to find thousands of magazines, something like 2,000 of them. This means that crafting progression is entirely tied to looting. Killing, mining, building, and driving don't actually really increase your character's crafting skill in any way whatsoever. They don't really influence it, and it forces you to metagame your skill points just to manipulate the drop chances of books. So you end up looting the same mailbox dozens of times and looting the same 2 bookstores 8 or 9 times in a playthrough. It's very tedious, it's very luck dependent, it's frustrating a lot of the time, and it's just bad design in my opinion. Now, the next problem is the glacial development speed. This game has been in development for over 13 years, and for the last 5 years at least, they've had upwards of 100 people working on this game, but development has slowed down and the amount of content in those updates has reduced. We used to get faster updates when there was only 5 people working on this game. Now updates are a year, sometimes a year and a half apart, and there's almost never anything new in them. It's always just balance tweaks. You'll get like 1 or 2 flagship new features, like, oh, we added 2 new zombie types to the game, and the rest is balance tweaks. Often it's just reworking of basic mechanics. Food and water and armor, AI constantly get reworked over and over again in this game. Meanwhile, promised features like the bandits and the story mode have been in development hell for a decade. But the Fun Pimps have a defense for this apparently. They love to compare themselves to Mojang and Minecraft, claiming that they provide free updates out of love, and that nobody complains when Mojang updates the game for free for 15 years. I've tried explaining that Minecraft was finished in 2011, but they seem to just ignore me when I say that, which is very telling. Mojang has spent 15 years adding to a finished, very simple game. 7 Days to Die is still missing core features promised on Kickstarter over 13 years ago. The Fun Pimps, like I said, love to compare themselves to Minecraft. So I think a useful comparison would be just to compare the amount of stuff and interesting features that are added by both games in 2025. In 2025 alone, Minecraft added new plants, new biomes, new animals, animal variants, new mounts, new enemies, a rework to an entire new tier of progression, new weapon types and enchantments, new music, and probably a lot of other stuff that's not very efficient to mention in this section of the video. Do you know what the most exciting things 7 Days to Die added in 2025 were? Apiaries, which are just reskin do collectors with a line of code changed, jars, which were a feature they already had 3 years ago, smell and temperature, features that were re-added after they were removed for no reason a few years ago, and blue and orange zombies, which are reskins and XML tweaks. That is the most notable thing I can tell you about 7 Days to Die in 2025. Oh, and they added a timer when you enter biomes, so now there's a timer and you have to not die while the timer's on. Now, I know comparing Mojang's resources to the Fun Pimps is unfair, but I'm not the one that draws comparisons between these two completely different companies. They are. They genuinely don't seem to understand the difference between refining the same mechanics over and over again and removing beloved features and barely adding anything for 8 years, and what Mojang does, which is reworking very old underbaked mechanics and adding actual new content. Very, very little has actually been removed from Minecraft in, say, the last 15 years. Almost everything is an overhaul, popular or otherwise, a tweak, or a new addition. Most of Minecraft removals happened in that 2-year stage where they were in alpha and beta. 7 Days to Die has lost biomes, POIs, zombie variants, weapons, entire fucking mechanics were gone, like smell, temperature, water collection, though these mechanics have all been re-added in the past 2 months, but we also lost wellness, full character customization, caves, the old much more deep crafting system. We lost 2 other types of crafting progression. We lost actual visual clothing changes. We lost different meat types. We lost a much more deeper and interesting farming system. We lost biofuel, wood log spikes, a bunch of other blocks and even a crafting station. We lost harvestable and lootable zombies. We lost human turds, blood draw kits, the hornets, and even one of the traders. That is not what Mojang has done for the last 10 years, the Fun Pimps. That is what you've done over the last 10 years. Those are two very different comparisons. Done game, added features. Unfinished game, removed features. There's the difference. The next problem is the lack of endgame. Once you have all your gear and you've built a good base, there's nothing else to actually do. You just endlessly collect bullets to fight zombies, and maybe you build more unique bases purely off of intrinsic motivation to do so. There's no actual reason to, once you have one good base. There's no story, there's no NPCs, there's no interesting endgame challenges, there's no fun mechanics that become available really late in the game that you can play with. It's just kind of the same thing, but it gets harder and harder and more over time. The quests in this game are just fetch or kill or press E on a box. The tier 6 quests are kind of cool, but they're really just nothing unique. It's just more zombies and more shooting. All that said, if you can stomach the developers, the slow development, and the horrible learn by reading system, which might be fixed soon, 7 Days to Die is probably a perfectly enjoyable survival open world crafting game to play, especially since attitudes seem to have changed from the developers in the past few months, and there are plans to rework progression into something hopefully less shit. So my final verdict, is it worth it on sale for $20? Probably yes. It won't waste your time too much. You'll probably get your money's worth, and you'll probably put like 100 hours into it if you like it, maybe more. At $45, no, don't buy this game at full price. It goes on sale too often to be worth it, and honestly, the developers just kind of don't deserve full price for 13 years of removing shit and constantly reinventing the wheel instead of finishing core features. And you certainly aren't going to miss much by waiting for that next $20 sale. And if you are going to buy 7 Days to Die after watching this video, you probably need a beginner's guide because you're not going to know what to do. So maybe you could watch this video popping up on screen made by me where I give you a beginner's guide. This is like he thinks out how he makes his content. What does this mean? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.